Hi, Andre, if you can. Hi, Andre.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. I'm just promoting you to a panelist. Please accept that.
Sorry?
I am promoting you to a panelist. Please accept that.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to start my video. Is it okay? Or there's too much light here?
If you can sit somewhere where there's light on your face, that'll be better.
Hold on. Here. There's this, but I need to any background. I cannot do any background here. Where is it? Okay, like that? Hmm?
Yeah, this is better, Andre. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, guys, so for question 2, on the challenges. So as I was saying to Ritu last time that I might jump after the guys they discuss about the challenges. If there's like anything I can add. Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Anil.
Yeah. So who is asking the questions? It's Prakar.
Hey, Andre. Hey, everyone.
So it mutes automatically. Yeah, Prakar. So question 2, according to the answers of these guys, so I might jump.
Andre, we have the rest of the audience with us, so let's discuss offline. Yeah.
Hi, I have actually given you the access to profile.
Hi, Deepak. Very nice to see you. Can't hear you yet, Deepak. I think you are on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, Deepak. How are you?
Yeah, so you can hear me properly, right?
Yes, Deepak, we can.
Wonderful. Maybe you need to raise your volume a bit.
Can you hear me properly?
Yeah, yeah. So you are going to moderate this, right?
Correct.
Okay. So no more changes. This is how we start in about एक काम करिए थोड़ी देर wait कर रहे हैं. So another 5 minutes. That's how we start, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll be starting very soon. Give another 5 minutes for the rest of the team to join. Thank you.
Huh? No.
Hi, good morning.
Hey Diego, very nice to see you. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning, Deepak. Nice to
Hi,
meet
good
you. I
morning.
know that we didn't have time to meet the last time,
Yes.
but it's okay.
And where are you based, Diogo?
I'm in Jeddah,
Oh, okay. Okay.
and you are in Riyadh or?
Yes, I am based in Riyadh. Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I was in Dubai for 10 years, and a couple of years back, I shifted to Riyadh.
Okay. Hi, André.
Bonjour, how are you? So I hope I'm audible, visible. It locked me out. I had to log in again. So this is the limit of the technology, but the technology is useful.
Yeah,
I
don't
think we have everybody on the call. Let's give it another 2 minutes for the rest of the audience to join, and then we shall start.
Perfect.
The volume is up.
Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon to everyone joining from the MEA region, and a very good morning to everyone joining from the Middle East region, and a very good afternoon to everyone joining from India. Let me introduce our host for the day. We have Prakhar Gupta, who is an enterprise pre-sales consultant at Bazom and has over 7 years of experience in the CPG space. He excels at solving the data visibility gap for all nodes in the downstream supply chain with robust distribution processes. Over to you, Prakhar.
Thank you, Vishrita. Again, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on the growth opportunities for the FMCG sector in Saudi Arabia. Like Vishrata already introduced me, my name is Prakhar Gupta, and I'm working as an enterprise sales consultant in Bizom, the retail intelligence platform. I'm thrilled to be here today as your host, and I'm honored to have such a diverse group of attendees from various parts of the world joining us. Saudi Arabia is the 5th largest country in Asia and the 2nd largest economy in the Middle East. With a population of over 3.6 million, like the rest of the GCC countries, Saudi Arabia also has a young and growing population and, of course, a high GDP. The country has shown extreme resilience in the face of inflationary pressures that have led to multiple FMCG categories experiencing price increases in the year of 2022. With things looking up in 2023, we will understand how the FMCG industry is reacting in today's webinar. We will discuss the current state of the industry, the growth opportunity it offers, and the challenges it presents in the FMCG business. Stay tuned as we hear from the expert in the industries who will share the experiences, insights, and tell us how the businesses can leverage these opportunities to grow and thrive in the Saudi Arabian market. I hope you find this webinar informative and engaging, and I look forward to learning and sharing ideas with all of you. Thank you again for joining us today. Our panel of speakers for today's growth session has Mr. Diego Victoria, who is the Sales Director in Sadafco Group. Diego holds over 15 years of experience in the retail space and has been driving the dairy business for Sadafco recently. Welcome to Bizom's webinar, Diego. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry, Diogo, I think we can't hear you.
Hi, sorry. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the invitation and to make the introductions to the webinar. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Deepak Kaul, the General Manager at the Coca-Cola Company, is also joining us today. Deepak is a seasoned customer packaged goods industry expert with an illustrious career spanning over 3 decades. He has been driving growth for MNCs like Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, Kellogg's, Nestle, and Tiffany Foods across multiple countries, including India, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, and Kuwait. Thank you, Deepak, for taking the time and joining us today.
Prakash, thank you very much for having me. It's really a pleasure to share our experience about Saudi market with all the participants in the webinar. Thank you very much once again.
Great. We also have with us Mr. Andre Kuden, the route to market digitization expert and Vice President of Business Development at Bizom, who has been digitizing the RTM for FMCG companies in the GCC country. Welcome to today's webinar, Andre.
Thank you, Prakar. Thank you, Deepak and Diogo for joining us. And also thank you to our audience that is participating from Saudi Arabia, but also like from many other countries. That shows us one more time how Saudi Arabia is becoming attractive nowadays.
Thank you all for joining us. The participants can add their questions in the chat box below. We will take them up at the end of the webinar. Hope this webinar is informative for us, and let's start the discussion. So my first question to you, Diogo, is in 2022, like I said, high food inflation grappled the whole world. What was the situation like in Saudi Arabia and how is it now? Diogo, are you with us? I think we have lost Diogo. He'll rejoin, but let me pose this question to you, Deepak. What are your views on this? How is the situation in Saudi Arabia now, and how is it compared to 2022?
You know, 2022 was a fairly challenging year for FMCG. If you split 2022 into first half and second half, the first half, the inflation was about 2.5%. But as we started going into the second half, it reached about 4.5% inflation. And a lot of FMCG companies started taking the price up. And why did this happen was primarily because as we came out of COVID, there was an upsurge in demand, but the factories had a lag impact of starting their production. So there was a gap between the supply and the demand at the same time. The inflation in Europe went up significantly. The energy crisis because of Ukraine war started hitting everybody. So there was an inflation all over, and that had an impact on Saudi because Saudi still imports a lot of goods from across the world. So anything that goes wrong outside Saudi has an impact inside Saudi. So the inflation was about 4.5%, and a lot of FMCG companies took the price up, especially the meat product companies and the dairies and the water companies. And you know, food is about 20% of the purchasing basket of the consumer. So that had an impact. So with the result, the demand really slowed down. But as we came into 2023, the inflation has now come down to 2.5% again. But it already has a base of 4.5%, which happened last year. So the demand is now coming back gradually. I think as we get into the second half of 2023, we would see the demand increasing fairly significantly in Saudi market. Yes. So this is on the inflation side, how it happened in first half, second half, and first half of 2023.
Thank you so much for that insight, Deepak. What did this have an impact on specific to the beverages market in Saudi Arabia and in all of GCC? What was your view on that?
Yeah, there is, if you look at the shopping basket of the consumer, there are essential commodities that consumer buys, and then there are luxury items which are in the surround area. So whenever inflation goes up, the money is diverted more towards the essential commodities, and the surround luxury items take a beating. And that's what happened with the sparkling industry. Because of the inflation, the demand went down. So we had an adverse effect. We were growing at the category was growing at 6 to 7%. But in the second half, it came down to 2.5% kind of a growth. So there was a significant impact. And also with companies taking the price up, the water companies took the price up also. So there was a squeeze on the pocket of the consumer. And that started impacting the beverage industry, especially the juices and the sparkling industry. So there was an adverse impact. But as I said, inflation has now come down to manageable limits, and we do see and very hopeful that in the second half, the demand will come back for beverage industry.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for those insights, Deepak. Great to have you back now, Diogo. Can you hear us now?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was internet issue, but I think it's okay. It's all set out.
During the insights that Deepak was giving us, Deepak did mention the impact of 2022 inflation on the dairy market. I would love to hear your views on this, Diogo.
Okay, let me try to put this in a different angle, because I believe that it's important to understand, apart from what Deepak was saying about the impact of the inflations and on the supply point of view and the raw materials, it's very important to see as well what was the challenge that the companies, and mostly on the dairy industry, because we are on the commodity business, how these have challenging the organizations to managing this high cost increase at the raw material, and how we was managing the right price in the market in order that we can be able to managing our business. So the biggest issue here is how do you analyze the full value chain. And as you know that Saudi Arabia market is still very depending on the outside in terms of raw material. So definitely there's a key focus how procurement play strategic roles in order that we can buy our needs at the best price. And then we need to project as well our need, what is our needs in terms of demand, volume. And then we need to strategically start to negotiate with our suppliers to have the most competitive price in terms of raw material. So this is one of the points that it was critical for us as well. The other point is coming to how you can managing the whole value chain costs, because that is where we need to focus on efficiencies and optimization. Because increasing the price due to raw materials is key at the consumer price, but we need as well to understand what is the real price that consumers are willing to buy, and how competitions will drive this inflation problem. So we are not alone. So we need to understand the dynamic of the market in order that we can place or work as best as we can on terms of the pricing strategy. So I think 2022 was a huge challenge for the companies in order that to analyze the whole value chain and try to see how we can bring the most efficiency and optimizations in the structure, and we can build the best pricing strategy in the market. And then doing that, we can grab more opportunities. Now, yes, it's true that the dairy industry have suffering because price was going up. That was a clear impact on the demand. But the most important in these kinds of environment is to analyze fast, taking the decisions fast, because that is where you can take the opportunities that the market is giving to you. So it is a combination of what is the elasticity of your price, basing on the dynamic of your market in terms of competition. How can you manage in the best you can the value chain? So I think that was the biggest challenge that dairy companies are facing in 2022. Some have difficulties and have a huge impact on profitability. Others have a huge impact as well on the turnover top line and volume-wise. But it was more linked to what is the right decisions to take at the right moment. So you need to take all the inputs from the markets. You need to take as well the full understanding of the value chain to be able to drive 2022 the way we was always living in terms of the inflation. So I just want, to me, I think this is important to understand that when you face this kinds of environment and in the commodity business, it's very key to how you put the pricing as the strategy for your business. So just to give you that full scope about how it was for us important this point for 2022. And it's true that now situation is a little bit more stable. Doesn't mean that we are still managing prices or cost increase, but in a more, I can say, predictive way and a more stable way. So this allows us to project better our prices in the market, allows us as well to managing better the dynamic of the raw material costs. So I believe 2023 definitely will give us a more stability. But the companies that have focused very much on 2022 on optimizations and efficiencies, definitely they'll gain more impact on 2023.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, Diogo. That was helpful. A question back to you, Deepak. Diogo talked about efficiencies and optimizations, right? And how we can have a dynamic pricing approach based in the kind of situations that we've faced in 2022. Was that something specific that Coca-Cola, where you were working as managing director, did at that time to grapple that?
Oh yeah, I mean, Diego made a very relevant point that when you have such inflationary pressures, you look for efficiencies and productivity. You look at your supply chain because that is your biggest cost element. And also you emphasize on your procurement, but that is on the supply chain side. But on the consumer side, I think every category has a magic price point around which the demand rotates. And as a marketer, your effort is, in spite of all the inflationary trends that the market has, you don't lose that magic price point. So you start rebuilding your pack and pricing architecture once again, because you don't want to pass on the inflation to the consumer. And since we operate not in the basic necessity category as a dairy would be, and we are more on the surround of the category, so you got to be very careful that you don't put inflationary pressure on the consumer. So you got to be careful in terms of downsizing your pack sizes so that you keep the magic price point. Your channel dynamics change significantly. You start looking at the channels where your cost of doing business is lower, and you start promoting those channels so that your margins are intact. So these are a couple of things that you do. You start looking for your revenue growth packs, which you start promoting more, so that you get value-added benefit, and because your P&L is already under pressure because of the supply chain issues. So efficiencies, procurement efficiencies, your pack pricing architecture, your revenue growth management, your channel selections become extremely critical. And you start looking at your marketing investments, your advertising and promotion investments that you do in the market. And you start then managing them so that you don't waste your money, and you create only events out of that. Like, I'll give you a small example. Though we had huge inflationary trends last year, but FIFA is a Coke global asset. And we knew that that touches a passion point with the consumer. So we really invested right into that event, which created a lot of halo effect around it. So you got to be very smart in choosing your marketing investment, your pricing strategy, your channel strategy. And if you can get the supply chain and the consumer side right, I think you can sail through some of these inflationary trends that come in the market. So you got to be very careful in short term and don't do stupid things in short term to kill your long term. So always have a long-term perspective in mind. The short term, you will win, lose some battles, but as long as you're moving in the right direction for long term. So never lose your focus from what is your vision of the company and what is the direction that you're setting up for the company. And these ups and downs you should manage with your tactical strategies that you build into your business.
Thank you so much, Deepak. A point to note for all of our audiences, like Diogo and Deepak both mentioned, I think efficiencies and having the right mindset when it comes to approaching the supply chain is very important. If you want to know more about how Bizom is helping organizations do that, please do reach out to us or message in the chat box. Coming back to you, Deepak, I just would like to follow up with another question. In context of Saudi Arabia, what do you think? Like, I think Diogo mentioned about the challenges that FMCG companies are facing. What do you think in context of Saudi Arabia? What are the major challenges that the FMCG companies are facing today, with the perspective not just from the seller but also from the consumer?
I think one, as we already discussed, inflation has been a challenge because Saudi Arabia depends a lot on supply chain coming from outside the country, more from Europe. So anything that happens in Europe has a huge impact on inflation. And last year, Europe inflation was 23-25%, based on which country you're talking. So I think inflation becomes an extremely challenging factor for being a retail company or being a consumer company. I think the other thing is the talent. I think we still are very short of talent in Saudi Arabia, and getting the right people becomes an issue here. Infrastructure is something that needs to be developed. The rentals are very high. You don't have proper warehousing facilities. So those are some of the challenges that the companies face. But if you look at the opportunities that you have, I think that is huge. Having a 35, 36 million population, more than half of the population is less than 30 years of age. The ladies are coming out into the work stream, and that creates a different market for FMCG companies who deal with lady products, because now they're coming out and they're into workplace, they're into service industry. So that is another thing that is growing very fast. There is a lot of investment in infrastructure that after MBS Vision 2030, they're investing in infrastructure, and they're also trying to reduce their dependence on the oil sector. So there is a tourism focus which is coming up. So I think the opportunities are much, much bigger than the challenges that Saudi is offering today. And I would rather focus on the opportunities and get very, very excited about it, because the domestic consumption is huge, the population is big, there is GDP is pretty healthy. So it's got all the ingredients, and the economy is opening up. There is one very peculiar thing that Saudi offers, which is religious tourism. We have these two holy cities, which is Makkah and Medina, and we have the Hajj, which is a huge event that happens in this country, and Umrah, which happens for all the 12 months. This year we are expecting 4 to 5 million tourists, which will perform these Umrah and Hajj. And the vision is by 2030, this population will grow to 30 million of the visitors alone. So there's going to be another Saudi which will visit Saudi for the religious purposes. So see the upsurge in demand that will get created if you have the right product and the right pack and the right price. So I would not get so much worried about the challenges. I would be so excited about the opportunities. And this is the right time as the country opens. You have the first mover advantage. And I think anybody who wants to come into the country now is the right time to come here.
Very well put, Deepak. Thank you so much for that. Diogo, I would like to ask a similar question to you, focusing more on the opportunities that Saudi Arabia is offering to the world. How have you seen this build up in the last couple of last period of time, and what is your view on this, based on both from the seller and the consumer?
Okay, I think that first it's important to understand understands apart from what Deepak is saying about everything that is happening as a country to shift from the oil and gas dependencies and to diversify the economy. There's a lot of attractions to bring investors to Saudi Arabia. Lots of investments in terms of new projects like the line, Neon, Exxon. So there's a lot of activities coming, and already a lot of activities that we see daily basis. So definitely this shows that we are in a clear transformation. But the clear transformation as well is changing the competitive landscape. What I want to say to this, we need to understand that how retailer will attract these new opportunities and we focus on the need and how they're going to transform themselves, how consumers as well will change, because there's a lots of impacts, as Deepak says, female are going more and more to the workforce. That has a clear impact in terms of family structure. That has an impact on the habits, needs, consumers' consumption. So first of all, I just want to make a clear analysis about how retailers is trying to grab all of these changes, and as well driving as well the changes that the government is doing to create a more control and a more structured commercial matrix. So this is point that before there was a clear focus on consumers who was very loyal to certain stores or outlets, and they was buying on a monthly basis their groceries, what they need. Today, we start to see a shift that they are being more and more buying in several places. So they are more mobile. They are as well focused more on their convenience. And so means that there's a lot of new outlets coming up. So you have the modern trade with the big retailers like Panda, Lulu. Then you have local supermarkets start to come. And you have the mini markets start to play a role as well. And then you have the normal traditional trade. So all these dynamics start as well to have an impact on the way to do business from the supplier point of view, but as well to try to accommodate with the new consumer trends. Today, consumers are crossing all the different channels during the day. When I wake up, I can take my breakfast at home. Then I go to the office, and during the way, I take a cappuccino to go to my office, and I go and grab this on my coffee shop that I normally go because it's on the way of my office. So that is out of home. And then during the day, I want to buy something. Then I call to an e-commerce company to bring me a sandwich or a cafe latte, for example. And then I go at the end of the day, I pass for the gas station because I need to buy milk. Then I'm on the mini market or traditional trade stores. Then I pass to a key account because I need to buy certain groceries for my needs. And that means that's what I want to say, consumers today is crossing all these channels during the day. Now that changed the way you do business. On the other side, you have another point is the shopper. So today, what we need to focus is customer, shopper, and consumer. And you need to understand the dynamic of all these three variables. So first of all, you need to really understand your customer because you serve your consumer through the customer. You need to understand more and more how they are operating, what is their strategy, where they want to go, what is the trend, what is happening in the market. And then you need to serve the best you can. Then after that, you need to understand the shopper, where the shopper, when it goes to traditional trade, is not the same. Then it goes to a key account on a modern trade channel, or it goes to an out of home. So you need to understand where your products portfolio feed all this process. At the same time, what your consumer wants. Consumers are more and more focused on convenience. They are going more to a new lifestyle, more linked to healthy products, more demanding about what is more behind the product, about the brand behind the product. So that means focus on sustainability, environment. So all these kind of things, the brands and the products needs to start answer. Then you have the young generations coming in as well. That has a huge impact, more technical skills, where you have as well the part of the internet, the new technology, because in Saudi Arabia is a high penetration on smartphone and internet. So this is part as well that changed the trends and the habits of the consumers. So when you grab all this environment, all this landscape in terms of what is the new ambitions of the country and all the investments and all the actions they are doing to shift from an oil and gas depending company to a more diversified country. So that is one thing that has a clear impact on the consumers and on the market. The other thing as well is how retailers are repositioned based on this new reality. How the business models start to come. But we need to face as well, due to the technology, new business appear every day. So the e-commerce is a clear changing as well on the way of doing business and the way of serving the consumer. And then all of this with the new changes happening on the family structure, that changed as well the consumers and the needs of the consumers. So what I'm saying is there's a huge opportunities in Saudi Arabia because that all of these investments, all this dynamic definitely opens for a lot of opportunities. So it's a country that is investing, is a country that is changing for growth. So that means companies are just grabbing that wave, but positioning their business as well. So there's two big challenges that I see in Saudi Arabia. One, how you grab the speed of the country and taking as much advantage in terms of opportunities that the landscape is giving to you. But on the same time, how you build your new business model, because the market has changed. So if I see, and I'm still 2 years in Saudi Arabia, but I see a huge change. In 2 years, it's not the same. So the point that the companies are thinking to doing business on the normal way, then this could be a mistake. Because what was in the past, as they call the gold times, it was margins was more or less okay and stable. It was easy to managing the profitability and sustainability and the growth of the business. The trend and the demand was there. So it was easy, or it was more easy. Now you fight for your market share. Now you fight to grab the consumers. You fight to bring the right opportunities. But on the same time, you need to prepare your organization, because you are changing your business model, because you need to change your business model if you really want to grab the opportunities of Saudi Arabia. So that brings that how you build the new capabilities for the future. What should be the new organization? So all this question needs to come now. But the more important is what is the right business model taking the new competitive landscape. And this is where you integrate technology, because you are very focused on cost efficiencies, optimization, focus to drive the best customer experience, understanding more and more the customers, driving the best service to the customer, assure your product is at the shelf every time the consumer wants to take your product. But on the same time, how you bring the consumer experience, how you attract your consumers to your products. What products do you need to have? This is bring and come with the innovation. The innovation will play a role in the future because consumers are changing very fast and they are more demanding. They are more skilled and more demanding. And now thinking that you managing the business like a normal traditional way, that you focus on a clear strategy by channel, and then you try to drive your business to the full value chain, it will not be enough. Today, you need to manage and integrate all the channels, because you need to touch your consumer and your shopper on a daily basis. And you need to know what they need in terms of their consumption moments. And that change during the day. So we need to put us as well as a consumer, because we are as well a consumer in this case. And we see how we are mobile, moving to one place to another, but as well how when we want a product, we don't want to wait. When we want to buy something, we want speed and we want the convenience part because we don't have time. So all these points needs to be taken in consideration if you really want to build a new business model and to grab the opportunities of Saudi Arabia.
Brilliantly put. I think it was a very in-depth observation, Diogo. I think it's very, very safe to say that it's very important to understand the consumer as much as possible before you make any business model. Thank you so much for that. Andre, would you like anything to add on this point?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe that Diogo and Deepak shared very important insight that is coming from their years and years and experience in the FMCG industry and in Saudi Arabia. So what I wanted to share a little bit with our audience will be more, let's say, targeted challenges that our customer or people we talk to in the market will be facing. So it's going to be close to what was said before, but I will kind of bring a kind of how to solve this also a little bit. So a first point that I see in the Saudi market is market saturation. So the country has a well-established retail market with a range of local international brands that, as Diogo said, they are fighting for market share. So it makes it very difficult for FMCG company to differentiate the projects and capture a significant share of market. So how can a company solve this challenge? So I believe that the only key to do that is to have strong advanced analytics and market intelligence capabilities that will enable companies to understand and analyze properly what customer, shopper, consumers wants, the behavior, analyze patterns and trends, in order to, from that, take informed decision regarding what type of products you will be launching or introducing, or how you also you position or market yourself. So the second point, what I see is obviously, and this is not new, a very strong P&L pressure. Deepak spoke a lot about that with what's happening in the ecosystem, from COVID to the current geopolitical issue in between Russia and Ukraine. So this is in the same way, using technology here is key, because you are able to have a better visibility on your value chain creation and bring efficiencies. And examples such as route optimization or auto replenishment system will enable manufacturers or distributors to optimize basically the distribution network, reduce costs, and ensure timely product deliveries. And one thing that is also key, what Diogo mentioned, is how you manage to have your product available every time for your shopper or consumer. And this is what leads me to the third challenge that we observe. These are a stock out of or out of shelf situation. And this is also more amplified because of the size of the country of Saudi Arabia, which is very vast. And we all know that it might be difficult for some brands. I'm not talking on mega brands such as Saf or Coca-Cola, but I'm also thinking about smaller manufacturers or distributors, in order to be able to reach everyone everywhere, or to visit a retailer more than once a week. So there's a new trend that started during the pandemic on the market that consists of shifting the sale process from the seller to the buyer. So manufacturers and distributors are developing some interfaces where they will enable like the retailer, which is like your customer guys, to have all the information available when it comes to product price and promotion, and will enable you to order products whenever you want, whenever you need, and at the best condition. So this is basically like a B2B marketplace. In other words, doing like what a consumer will buy on e-commerce. So allowing me, your client, which is B2B, to do the same with the manufacturer or distributors like itself. And I will finish by a last point, and this is more in terms of infrastructure when it comes to manufacturers, distributors, and more on the IT standpoint. So I have seen on the field that a lot of companies are using too many suppliers in order like to cover different like use cases that most of the time leads to unnecessary investments, or a TCO that would be like higher if they simplify their architectures. And the biggest challenge is leading to inefficient flow of data. So I was discussing with another client like the other day, and he was telling me like, Andre, you know that different stakeholders have different information at different times. So there will be like a lag of up to 24 hours in between, for example, the information that is available to the sales to the information that will be available to the finance department. And this is something that is very critical. And when we are discussing about like high volumes of sales or production, it can have like a massive impact on the company itself.
Thank you so much for that, Andre. Adding to that a little bit, Deepak, I would like to ask you, even though Coca-Cola is present everywhere, right? Wherever you see when you talk soda, you think of Coca-Cola. So I would like to understand from you, how much of this was already true for Coca-Cola, what Yogo and Andre said about trying to change our approach based on how our consumers are evolving. And secondly, would like to understand from you how much of that change is driven by technology today.
Listen, just to add of the conversation that's been happening for the last 15 minutes, we need to be slightly more sensitive to the Saudi population. The consumer is, if I define the consumer, is split into three segments. There is a segment who wants to ride the wave of change. There is a bigger segment which is waiting and watching. And there is a segment who doesn't want to change. So for any company to be successful, you've got to be very, very sensitive to the local culture. You've got to be very sensitive to the local touch points and the passion points of your consumer. So you can't bring a model from outside and thrust that on a country like Saudi Arabia, which has a very strong culture and value system. So you've got to be extremely careful. What is the speed at which you want to bring the change in this country? Because population is very new to this change. There's still a wait and watch kind of a culture that they are going through right now. So that is just one point that I wanted to leave on the table. If I get your question right, Prakhar, you're saying that what is the role of technology that I see with Coca-Cola vis-a-vis Saudi Arabia?
Yes, and also about the question, the whole theme of the last conversation was times they are changing, right? Like Bob Dylan said. So I wanted to understand, has that had a big impact on the strategy, the tech strategy for Coca-Cola? And yes, the question that you said, how is technology impacting the whole change?
Oh yeah, I mean, it goes without saying. I mean, listen, when you have 60% of the population or 55% of the population less than 30 years of age, when you have a 85 to 90% mobile penetration and internet penetration, I think an average youth in Saudi spends much more time online on the gaming and other aspects than a youth spends that in Europe. So technology is the in thing. I mean, technology not only from the point of view of managing your supply chain, but the way you reach a consumer through the internet, through digital marketing, all the platforms are changing. The new generation does not watch TV, they're always online. So the way you promote, the way you connect, the way you send message to them, and the way you collect the response for every campaign that you do has changed significantly. and come to route to market, the way you go to the market today, as we've been discussing, that cost of distribution is increasing. So e-commerce becomes an extremely critical leg of your future expansion. How do you provide a mobile salesperson to a retailer on his mobile phone? He can order online, he can choose the destination from where the supplies need to come. So there is a whole lot of touch points. Be you are a shopper, you're a consumer, you're a customer, you're a manufacturer. I mean, you cannot live without imbibing the technology and the changes which are happening, because the flow of information is so fast. The flow of communication is so fast. And that helps you to make better decisions, very pointed decisions, and you don't waste your money in terms of taking a guess and then spending it. So I think it brings a lot of efficiency. It reduces the supply chain management time. It reduces the speed with which you can react and the speed with which you can reach the consumer. I think there is no doubt that technology is what you need to work with to bring your efficiencies and to increase your speed to market and your reaction time to the changing global environment that is happening today. But another thing that I would like to bring here is, and I think Digo touched upon that briefly, that whatever business model you bring, it has to be a sustainable business model. It has to first be relevant to the consumer. It needs to touch on the passion points of the consumer, and it has to be environmentally friendly to the consumer. Because see, these countries have the advantage. They don't need to evolve the way Europe evolved over 40, 50 years. Because today we know by internet that sustainability is a hugely critical thing. So Saudi doesn't have to spend 25 years to learn the importance of sustainability or environment, because they see it everywhere. Global warming is happening. So I think you need to have these 3, 4 very critical relevance, touch on the passion points, and have a license to operate in the country by being sustainable and environmental friendly. Like in Coke, we have different campaigns of collecting the PETs, collecting the used cans. How do I refurbish the water that I'm consuming today? I think every company has to be responsible to the environment. So technology, environment, relevance to the consumer. I think if you can build your business on these 3 sustainable platforms, provided you have the right product, obviously, then I think you have a successful model for Saudi Arabia.
That's very interesting. And thank you for saying that, Deepak. It is great to see that one of the biggest organizations in the world, that is Coca-Cola and Sodafco, are focusing on things like sustainability. It shows that the direction of the FMCG industry is in the right place. Thank you for that. Another follow-up question to you, Deepak, and also to you, Diogo. You both talked about the importance of technology in driving efficiencies and having the right infrastructure when it comes to the whole route to market. I want to understand from you, how does hiring the right skill to manage this transformation, how much of that is of importance for the companies, and what is happening on that end in both of you? Would like to hear from both of you.
Listen, I think this is a cultural change, and change is always very difficult. I mean, people have grown taking order on a piece of paper, and you want them to shift to a technology. It is challenging, but I think in route to market, now we see the technology has a huge advantage and huge benefit in terms of you can understand how you're covering your outlets. You can understand how your productivity of your outlets are. You can understand how your assets are being utilized inside the shop. And Diego and we come from the companies which invest a lot of money in coolers and other assets. So it really brings a lot of visibility and a lot of decision making that happens on the spot, and also helps to build the communication. Now, without the right talent, I mean, these things cannot happen. And as I said in my earlier conversation, getting talent in Saudi Arabia still is a challenge. And if talent alone is also not sufficient. With the talent, you need to have a mindset. and mindset of change. I've seen a lot of time IT companies come and build an Eiffel Tower of a software, but half of the organization still runs on an Excel file, you know, or a A4 sheet, because the culture of change doesn't get built. So you need talent to build the pipeline or technology, but you also need people to imbibe to that change. So talent of not only building the technical capability is important, but you also need people then bring the users into that new technology and bring the culture of change into that organization. So I think without the right talent and mindset, as I said, talent alone is not enough. The mindset of change is what a combination of these two is what will take the organization forward. And talent is a bit of a stress point in Saudi currently. But as the country opens up, people become more free to move and free to travel. I think the talent will start coming into the country.
Great. Anything you'd like to add, Diogo?
Okay, so now it's very common that in all the discussions we all talking about technology. So, but it's important to say technology is not a new thing, right? So robotics, automation is something that many organizations are already driving it and be creating the added value for their business. Now, the point for me that what we are discussing about how technology now, with the access of the technology that we have today, how creates value to the business. And that is the most important part, because everybody says we need to move to that direction. We need to invest in technology in order that we can have cost efficiencies. We can bring the growth of the business to a more optimized way of our systems. But for me, the point is, first of all, you need to understand what is your business model, what is the situation of the market, and what is the consumer, and what is your product. So you need to question all of this. Then after that, you need to see where technology brings value. And you need to understand what technology fits for your business model, and what is the right strategy. So this is why that you need to combine all these factors on your analysis, because technology is an investment at the same time. So you need to invest wisely. But on the other side, as Deepak said, when you move the business model to a more digital way, you need to factor with two challenges. The challenge number one is definitely there's a need to make a cultural change on the organization, as he normally called today is a digital cultural change, right? So we need to put an organization on experimentations, so focus on innovation. So all of this you need to consider. Then after that, you need as well to see what capabilities you have in your organization and what new capabilities you need to bring outside. So you need to understand, because the point starts to build a very nice car, but if you don't have the drivers to drive the car, you're not going to be a success. You're not going to have the success. The point here is build the car linked to the race where you want to be. So build the right car, but build the car at the same time you build the drivers. And this is the biggest challenge we face, because the organizations, many of them are not ready for that. So it takes time. So the most important is definitely technology.
I think we have lost Diogo due to some technical difficulty. But I think we are all, singing on the same tune, that unless and until we have the driver ready, the car is useless, right? I understand that, and I think that is something that we really, we believe in Bizom, that change management is one of the biggest levers of growth. So to know more about how we're helping our clients, manage change management, please reach out to us. Just to summarize the whole discussion, I would love to, ask all of you, Andre, Deepak, and Diogo, If you could summarize and tell us the three major things that an FMCG industry player should be focusing on to grow fast in the Saudi Arabian market in 2023, what would those be? Let's start with you, Deepak.
Sorry, you talk to me.
Hey, Diogo, can you hear us?
Diogo is back.
Yes. I'm sorry. I still have connection issues here.
That's okay, Diogo. The question I'll ask again to all three of you was, we have talked about a lot of things that are, going to be useful for the Saudi Arabian market. Let's summarize and talk about the top three things that FMCG companies should be focusing on in 2023 to grow very fast in Saudi Arabia. Let's start with you, Deepak, if you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you. For me, the couple of things that we need to be keep in mind for any FMCG company to grow here. First is you need to be relevant to the consumer. The consumers should see that you're offering a benefit, and that is the benefit that the consumer is looking for. So relevance to the consumer becomes extremely critical. That is number one. Second is you should be able to sustain your business over a longer period of time because the competition is heating up. So you should have a long-term vision of coming into Saudi because it's going to take time for you to win in this market. So have a patience, have relevance. So first is relevance, which is extremely critical. Second is have a business model which is sustainable on a long-term basis. And third is take care of the environment and have a social license to operate in this country. So if you are able to handle these three things, being relevant and have a social license to operate in this company and have a long-term sustainable business model, I think this country offers huge potential. And this company is opening up, and anybody who comes here, I'll give you a personal example. Before I came to Saudi, my perception about Saudi was very different. But now I've been here for 2.5 years. My perception has changed significantly. And perception is another battle that Saudi will have to fight for a long time to change that in the minds of the people. So I'm just digressing from those 3 points that you asked from an FMCG point of view. But I think the challenge the country will have is how to change its perception in the mind of the people outside Saudi to come to Saudi. And I think a lot of work is happening in that direction. And we see a lot of visibility of Saudi and Saudi tourism in different global events. And that is the way they're going through the image change to attract more and more people and investors into the country. So the first 3 points that comes from my mind.
Thank you, Deepak. And it is true what they say, see it to believe it. I think it holds very true for Saudi too. Diogo, would you like to mention your top 3 things that FMCG companies should focus on to grow in Saudi Arabia?
So for me, one point is understand your consumer. That is key. So that means you need to focus a lot to collect data, to really understand what your consumer wants and what your consumer wants in the future. So follow and see the trends and try to bring the right products that they are asking. The other thing as well is understanding your customer. So more you understand your customer, more you'll be able to serve him better, and more you'll be able to touch your consumers through your customer. So again, this is very key. And on both of them, bring the experience. Consumers today want experience, wants more than what just a simple product to consume. He wants to live that consumption moment. Customer as well are focused on getting the right experience. So service level is key, but how you can bring the best service level to your customer, driving the right experience to him. And then the other part for me is very focused on efficiencies, cost savings, and try to managing as most efficient as you can your value chain. So that is very key. Today, consumers are more demanding, but they have a price to buy from your products. They are not willing to buy a product because you are not efficient. So you need to understand all this dynamic. And then the last time part for me is clear understanding the landscape where you are. So you can have the right model to fit your ambitions and strategy of the group, of the company.
Great. I think a lot of points that you made echo the sentiment that Deepak was also sharing. Coming to you, Andre, what are the 3 things that you feel according to the customers that you're working with will drive growth in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, absolutely. So you gave me a difficult task, is to give my insight after like 2 excellent people here in the room. So I will be joining many like Diogo. So first one is to be as close as possible to your customer and consumer. So without having enough data collected and analyzed, you will never be able to understand, okay, like what the market wants, what the market needs, when and where. So according to this, you will be able like to take the right strategic decision when it comes to value creation. The second point, which is important, I will repeat it 3 times, is efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. So what will enable like people to stay afloat are people that are able like to operate as fast as possible, but also like agility on the most agile way. We know that we have different externalities that impacted the companies, so we cannot put like the profitability on only how a company operates, but also on what's happening in the environments. So we went through different challenges. We know that tomorrow there will be something else that will be like hitting the FMCG industry. So efficiency, agility is like important. And last but not least, innovation is a key. And nowadays, I really advise every company that is settled in Saudi Arabia, or even like brands, manufacturers that wants to penetrate these markets to surf the wave of change. And the positive part is that in GCC globally, but we really see a very fast acceleration now in Saudi Arabia. Governments have the willingness to first themselves drive this change. So this is something that makes it a bit easier, like in an ecosystem, and that companies should embrace. So change through technology, but like before Deepak said and Diogo said, change through cultural change. So what should we do nowadays as companies to embrace the change that is driven by Vision 2030 in order like to get as fast as possible the right processes to grasp the market share as population will be growing, consumption will be growing.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, all of our speakers for today. I would like to thank you for your insightful views. I would also open the floor for some questions from the audience. We have a lot of questions coming in. Let me ask them straight away. So the first question is to you, Deepak. Audience member is asking, what is your view about Saudi consumer market? How it is different than the other GCC markets?
You know, the big difference that is Saudi, if I compare it with UAE, which is the second biggest market after Saudi. Saudi has almost 65% of local population and only 35% expats. So Saudi has its own very strong culture. So if you don't connect with the local population, local relevance, local passion points, you cannot succeed. And Saudi has a very heavy domestic consumption. It's not dependent on tourism to boost its economy. And Saudi has a lot of money to invest in Saudi itself. These are the 3 big characters of Saudi consumer and the Saudi market. Whereas the rest of the GCC, especially UAE, which is the second biggest market, the local population is only 12 to 13%. So there is a lot of expat influence that happens there. So people are coming from different countries. So that is where the culture becomes a very mixed bag culture. And it has a huge impact. The consumer preference in UAE has a huge impact of the global preference, whereas in Saudi, the consumer preference is derived by the local preferences. So I think that's a big difference in the consumer mix and the consumer habits that you find in other countries versus in Saudi Arabia. The mix of population is very different, the culture is very different, and hence the consumption habits and occasions also become very different.
Very well put. Another question for the rest of the whole panelists. What is your insight for the new entrants as investors into the CPG industry in Saudi Arabia? Anyone has any interest in that?
To whom is, you are driving these questions to all of us, but who starts?
Anybody who wants to, Diego, anybody who wants to.
No, Deepak, if you want to, I'm willing to follow you out.
Just say the question again, please.
The question states, Deepak, that what are your insights for new entrants as investors into the CPG industry in Saudi Arabia?
Oh, so you're talking from an investor's point of view?
Correct.
I think as a new entrant in CPG industry, you need to first see, as we've been talking, what is the relevance of that product that you're going to invest in for a Saudi consumer, and whether that product has the possibility of evolving as the consumer taste changes in future. So that is one starting point. That what is it that you're trying to sell in the country, and how relevant is that to the local consumer? Second is, how quick is the scalability of that idea? Is that an idea which will take a lot of time to gather scale, or is that an idea that can gather scale very quickly? Which means an idea could be led by an e-commerce platform, okay, and can get attrition very fast in the country. So first is the relevance of that product and whether that product meets the future consumer demand, and is it in sync with where the consumer is going, and how quickly that idea can be scaled. And you need to invest in a model which has very low entry barriers, which means you shouldn't be spending a lot of money on infrastructure, manufacturing capabilities, but you should be spending a lot of money on technology-led sales and distribution, so that your cost of entry does not become too big. So relevance, scalability, and use technology as a platform to the consumer, I think, are some of the guidelines that I will tell any investor before they invest in any CPG in this country.
Thank you. Dio, would you like to follow?
So for me, just to complement what Deepak is saying, I think apart from all the points Deepak says, is as well understanding your competition. So you need to see exactly what is your differentiate factor, but understand, because market is very aggressive and the competition is very aggressive as well. So you need to understand that part, because you're going to invest. You need to understand how you're going to invest. But then after, you start small, but you need to bring the scale in order that you justify all your investments. So you need as well to understand how your competition will react, how it will be the impact of your entries in the market. So you need to take all of this in consideration. So yes, a differentiation factor, a clear understanding of the landscape where you are. And on the other side, it's very important to understand how you're going to invest. Because if you don't know exactly what business model you want to bring and what types of investments you required, then you can risk to be in a situation that it's a no return point and you can lose a lot of money. The new investor, they need to understand, is a very aggressive market in a transformations process. So that means enters in this new dynamic for the new coming is very high. But the people that are driving the business here today, they are as well building the business to build barriers as well for the new comings. So you need to face that one as well. And the other part for me is really understand the culture and the consumer. If you don't do this, you can make mistakes in the process. And if you are on investment mode, then you can have a problem of the return of your investment.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Another question specific to you, Deepak. A person has asked, despite of inflation last year and the improvements this year, you had said that CPG companies are growing in terms of volumes. But in highly competitive markets and beverage companies like yours, how do you manage margins and how does digitization help you to grab that sustainable growth?
See, margins, as Diego mentioned and Andre mentioned, and we've been talking about it, there are two elements of your business. One is the cost center, the second is the revenue center. I think you need to source efficiently, you need to be very productive and efficient in your supply chain management, because that's where your huge investment in plants exists. So how do you drive the throughput from your plants so that your depreciation that gets allocated per case is reduced? So get very efficient with your supply chain. I think so buy source from different segments globally so that whatever raw materials you get them at a cheaper rate. So that is on the efficiencies and productivity on the supply chain side. I think on the sales side, again, as I said, push your revenue packs, which give you higher margins. Reduce your RTM cost of going to the consumer. Use technology as an alternate source of distribution, where you don't need manpower, you don't need vehicles and cars to go and connect with the customer. So I think if you focus on RGM, if you focus on technology and use that to drive your distribution and get more efficient with your supply chain, I think those are the 3-4 key elements. Well, there are a lot of things that you need to do, but from a 35,000 feet, if I have to say something, these are the 3 critical businesses. And make sure that your advertising and promotion money that you spend on the right channel, on the right pack, and targeting the right consumer and targeting the right customer. So these are the 3-4 areas. If you're able to manage these, you should be able to sail through the inflationary trends that we had in 2022.
Thank you for that, Deepak. Question to you, Diogo. The question talks about how you're building strategies for equip farmers with the necessary digital tools and knowledge. How are you building their capabilities to ensure not only optimum yield and quality, but also resource efficient and sustainable farming?
I think that I need to explain a little bit our business model, because we are not working directly with the farmers. So in terms of, I think the question is more linked how milk collections here play a role on the supply chain and how this can bring value to the business. So for me, let me try to put this in a different way to see if I can answer the question. First of all, Sadavco, we don't managing directly farms like our competition is doing this, but managing farms in Saudi Arabia is a big challenge for many reasons. One of them is clear that there's an issue on the temperature that you need to face on. There's a need of the animal feed that you need to import because you don't produce animal feed in Saudi Arabia. So you have a lot of points you need to considering in order that you can be very efficient to produce milk with the right price. Now, yes, definitely that because of all these factors, and on top of that as well, the issues on how to drive the right quality on the milk production, that you have and you need to invest a lot. And this is where technology can play a role on this one. But for me, I believe that bringing milk as milk powder, you can stabilize more the quality of your product. You know exactly what you are buying, and you minimize the complexity to managing a farm, because at the end of the day, you focus on your consumer. So if you buy well, and if you buy with the parameters that you focus on in terms of quality is not negotiable, and then you stabilize your standards in order that you can produce according to your demands, and having the right stocks based on your projections, then you can bring the right efficiencies on the value chain. And that is why you allowed it to having more flexibility on the product that is it's a commodity. So you don't question quality, and this is one of the key points of Sadafco, but you be able to managing better your supply chain, mostly on the raw material, because you control more the dynamic of the milk production.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Just last question, because I think we're running out of time. This is to both Deepak and Yogo. And this question we've gotten multiple times, so I'm asking you. With the rise of Saudization and the threat of a large amount of expat talent pool leaving Saudi Arabia, do you see an increasing demand in how the talent is sourced, and how is it actually affecting your talent acquisition? To both you and Deepak and Diego, please.
I could hear the first part of the question, which says that with the increased demand for Saudization. Or what was the second part of the question?
So the question is that because of the increased rise in Saudization, people are seeing that a lot of expat talent pool is leaving the economy. So how is that being handled, and is that affecting your talent acquisition as well?
Listen, we are in Saudi Arabia, and the country belongs to the people of Saudi Arabia. So I think Saudization is a very inherent part of this country, because we are the visitors here. Saudis are not the visitors here. So we need to be very clear that who are the owners of this country. We are the visitors in this country. So there is going to be a push on Saudization, which is rightly so, because, as I said, the country belongs to them. Yes, there are issues in terms of the ready-made, I would say, talent that you get outside versus the talent that you have inside. But that it is a part of the growth for everybody. As a Coca-Cola company, it is my responsibility and our responsibility to grow the local talent, to go to the university and bring those engineers from there and business school graduates from there and take them through a training program. Because that is what about sustainability is. You cannot keep on borrowing talent from outside to grow the country, the local talent. And when the population is 35 million and half of them are below 30 and want to work, so I think that is a given phenomena that's going to happen, and companies better get used to that. Now, what you do is you also bring in technology at the same time. So you have fresh talent coming from the colleges and universities. Bring them into your fold, build a culture of performance with them, train them, and also they know the technology, because they're very young guys and girls who are coming from university. So build technology platforms, groom them. It's a natural process. I don't think anybody should feel bad about it. It's a country of Saudis. They have all the right on the resources. And we as corporations have a responsibility to ensure that the talent that is coming out of this university come up to the mark and start delivering at a professional level that we expect them to do. So I think it's a process that will go on, and all the companies better get used to that.
Brilliant. I think that answers the question very well. Anything you want to add, Diogo?
Well, for me, I see Saudization as an opportunity, because it's clearing they are the future of the companies and they are the future of this country. So it's how you build the talent and how you build the capability to give the space, the local team grow inside the organization and bring the value to the business. So you need to have a diversity. I don't say no, but you need to focus that Saudis are the future. They are the one who's going to drive this business for a long, long period. We are here to help this transition. Yes, we need to bring talent, what is required, but we need to develop the local talent as well. And knowing that they need to grow in the structure. So I don't see Saudization as a big problem. Is how you managing Saudization to drive the future of the organization. And I see this as a very good opportunity because you are building the talent and they will stay forever here and they are willing to succeed in the business. So I think that the young generation are bringing these kinds of dynamic of the organization, and that helps as well the organization to be challenged by themselves. And this is, for me, is a good point. So I think Saudization is clear a fact, a reality, but embrace it, live with, and take it as an opportunity.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, guys, for taking the time to answer those questions. And a huge thank to all the attendees for joining us. It was a great, really delightful and insightful session to know more about the growth opportunities in Saudi Arabia in the FMCG industry. If you'd like to explore the Bizom's retail intelligence solutions, please schedule a call with our team in the chatbot. We also have curated a report for Saudi Arabia's FMCG leaders, which will reach your inbox shortly. Hope you enjoyed today's session, and we look forward to having you with us in our future events. Thank you again, and wishing everyone a very nice evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.